Hello, friends. Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am your host, Tom Downey, and the NFL Draft is just 1 day away. So with that in mind, we're taking a look at not just my final 7-round mock draft, but also some round 1 draft targets for the Dallas Cowboys. The needs haven't changed as of late. Corner, receiver, DT, safety, edge. You can include interior offensive line in there as well, which makes it a little tough to actually address all of those needs in the draft because by the time you get to day 3, you're probably not going to end up finding too many impact players. So we'll dive into the round 1 targets, but first, my round 1 mock draft pick. Terrell and Xavier McKinney at number 17 overall. If he gets to 17, and there is no guarantee that he actually does, it might be a little bit more like a 50-50 proposition at this point. I think Chaisson ends up being the pick for the Dallas Cowboys. I believe that they like him. And frankly, I think it'd be a pretty good pick as well by the Dallas Cowboys. I think it'd be a good addition. This is a player who has not yet hit his peak. I know the sack production isn't what you want. I know you were looking for more than 6.5 sacks, and I certainly understand that. But as a young player, as a very good athlete, and as someone who clearly, as the year went along, showed growth and has all the traits you're looking for in an edge rusher, to get him at 17, I think that is a worthwhile pick for the Dallas Cowboys. Even looking ahead long-term, Crawford, Gregory, Aldon Smith, those are all one-year deals. You don't know necessarily how long those guys will be with the Dallas Cowboys or what kind of impact they'll have. They've all got question marks, suspensions for Gregory and for Smith, and the injury coming off for Tyron Crawford. So Chaisson at 17, I think this is the most likely pick. If he ends up getting there, he's not Taco Charlton, guys. You don't need to worry too much about that one. Now, the other draft targets, I think the Cowboys would love to get CJ Henderson. He'd be their top pick. I don't think it happens. I have a very tough time seeing Henderson getting past the Falcons, who might just trade up for him anyway. So keep that in mind. Then there's Javon Kinlaw, because we've talked plenty about Chaisson. We've gone over him a lot on the show. I think you guys know what he brings and what he doesn't bring. Kinlaw, if he's there at 17, I still don't think is the pick, because the only way he gets to 17 is if there are major medical concerns. So I'm going to cross off Kinlaw at number 17. I don't think that is the path that the Cowboys will end up going, even if he ends up getting there to begin with. So if those guys are off the board and if Kinlaw's got the medical issues, the kind of fallback targets at 17, I think 3 guys really stand out to me as the likely options, and this is really how I think they would go. It's close between A.J. Terrell and Trevon Diggs. I think Terrell would be the pick by the Dallas Cowboys. I've got Diggs ahead of Terrell, but they're graded out pretty similarly. They're all kind of iffy picks, frankly. I don't love either at number 17 overall. Xavier McKinney also in that discussion, but I think the Cowboys, if they couldn't get Chaisson, prefer a corner. So Terrell and Diggs are the 2 names to watch out for if Chaisson is not on the board. Then on top of that, the Cowboys would try to trade down. I think they don't want to have the 17th overall pick if Chaisson is off the board. So some potential names plus the 3 names we just mentioned: Kenneth Murray, Christian Fulton, Grant Delpit, and Jeff Gladney. All of those guys make sense to me as potential trade down options for the Dallas Cowboys. I could see them going after Murray still, though I think that's a bit unlikely. Fulton and Delpit and Gladney, maybe one falls to the mid part of round 2, but I think they could be trade down targets. Then some other names to watch out for. They've met with all of these prospects, I believe. Ruiz, the interior offensive lineman. I don't think that's the path the Cowboys go, but you could have a scenario where you trade way down and then there's a run on corners in front of you and you're not too happy about it. Yeturgos Matos could be an option, but I think that's a little bit unlikely. But again, if you trade down into the mid to late 20s, if you trade significantly down, I think he and Ruiz both make more sense. Zach Bond would be a part-time linebacker edge hybrid for the Dallas Cowboys. And I'll throw in Denzel Mims, although I don't think he ends up being the pick. So that's a pretty lengthy list, but I think you're looking at Chaisson, Terrell, and Diggs if there's not a trade down for the Cowboys. So who do you want in round one then? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. It can be your top target, but look, you're not going to get Okudah, you're not going to get Simmons, you're not going to get Henderson. So just keep that in mind. But I do want to hear from you guys. That's why I'm making this the pinned comment on this video. So if you get with the ad break here on YouTube, scroll on down and make your votes. All right, back to the mock drafts here. You guys care about round one more. That's why we spent so much time on it. Noah Igbinoghene is the pick here at number 51 overall. Now, I am using a draft simulator as I go through, so you'll see some of the guys who are on the board. I think there is a decent chance that Igbinoghene, or maybe just Noah I, if you want to make it easier on yourself, is available at pick number 51 overall. He's a former receiver, still kind of learning how to play cornerback. He's not the biggest guy, but he is a good athlete, and that's important to me when I'm looking at cornerbacks. The interceptions were not there, but as a former receiver, I'm going to go ahead and trust that the ball skills will be there as he learns to play better as a full-fledged corner. Now, I'm not the highest on Igbinoghene, but you can go watch the Alabama LSU games. Players with or teams with great receivers, he kind of held his own. And also, there's even some return value and special value mixed in there as well. The instincts aren't fully developed, but he's not even 21 years old yet, so he's going to get there as an upside play. I like that for the Cowboys. And look, you're in round two. You're probably not going to find an instant day one starter. Welcome to life in the NFL draft. But with LOUISIANA, Lewis, Canada, Goodwin, and a bunch of guys who never really made much of an impact in the NFL, the first names you just mentioned there, 4 of your top 5 corners are free agents next year. So you have to be looking ahead in addition to this year. So Igbinoghene at number 51 overall, I would like that pick for the Cowboys. You know, I'd love to get someone like a Diggs or a different corner, but the cornerback crop might kind of dry out by the time you get outside the top 50. With that in mind, here's who else was on the board. Damon Arnett was there. You could probably make an argument for that one if you want. I went with Igbinoghene because since the Cowboys met with him. 2 defensive linemen, Ross Blacklock, Justin Madubuike as well. Either of those guys I would have been okay with, especially Madubuike. Kyle Duggar is there, but who knows if the Cowboys actually go safety. And T. Higgins too. But if you don't go corner in round 1, if you're the Cowboys, I think you really have to ensure that you find a corner in the early parts of day 2, if not multiple times, if you don't get one in round 1. Now, if you want the best Cowboys draft coverage, hit that big red button and subscribe. And I'm not talking about just during the NFL draft, folks. I'm talking about after as well. We're going to break down all the picks. We'll discuss the undrafted free agents. We got you guys covered. If you subscribe, you'll be the smartest guy in your friend group talking about who the Cowboys picked in the NFL draft. All right, round 3, Terrell Burgess is the pick here. I didn't love the round 3 groupings, as you'll see here in a little bit. The tricky part for me is that when you start to look beyond the first 2 rounds and you're trying to fill all of these needs, it's a little tricky to actually pull off. Now, Burgess was actually the fan-led mock draft pick in round 3, so kind of on board there. First year as a starter, had a breakout year as a strong safety, nickel hybrid, a little bit of a tweener. Maybe he's a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson type in the NFL. But entering this pick, I was looking at these needs, right? I still want to find a receiver. I want defensive tackle, safety, depth, rotational players, and a long-term starter. I still probably want to find another corner if I can. Then you can mention interior offensive line. Maybe you want a new tight end too as well if that's a route that you want to pursue. Linebacker depth could be needed as well. So for the Cowboys, you're trying to find a bunch of different ways to fill needs. It's a little bit tricky. So Burgess isn't going to be a dynamic, rangy free safety. That's not his mold. He is not an Earl Thomas type player. But he is a good athlete. He can hold up in coverage. He's a good tackler. He played both ways as a freshman, by the way, as a receiver at Utah. Some teams might view him as a nickel. I think you could play him at some strong safety nickel hybrid type role. Either way, guess what? I'm filling a need if I'm the Dallas Cowboys. So just keep that in mind. And I think long-term, maybe he ends up being your strong safety. Maybe you could play him in some nickel if you need to. But the only guy on that list, folks, of your starters that's under contract beyond this year is Anthony Brown. Nobody else is. You better try and find some more depth and some more potential starters, maybe not necessarily in year 1, but by year 2, if not, even before that, in the latter half of year 1, you better find a way to get some help at the defensive back positions. So is this the year that the Cowboys finally draft a safety early? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I'm not convinced they're going to, but with the way the board kind of fell, I kind of like that pick there for the Dallas Cowboys. There were some other guys who were available, but I think maybe it's finally the time for the Cowboys to do it. But if they don't take one in round 3, I'm not convinced they take one until, maybe even round 7. They might try to wait even a little bit longer. Some other players who were on the board here in round 3, I do want to make quick note of. Donovan Peoples-Jones, but I think I can wait on a receiver. Jordan Elliott, Logan Wilson were both intriguing. In all seriousness, I think Logan Wilson could be a round 3 pick for the Cowboys. They like him. He also might be long gone by that point. 2 corners intrigue me. Darnay Holmes, Amik Robertson, a pair of, especially for Amik's ball hawking corners, nickel guys. I went ahead and passed on those guys to try and address the safety need. But look, by the time we get to round 3, 4, 5, and beyond, we're very much at that point where we're just trying to try and fill some needs because it's going to be a cluster. Who knows how many of those guys are actually on the board? The only way to know is to watch the NFL draft, and you can do that on Chat Sports. Head over to youtube.com/chatsportstv and subscribe today. We will be live for all 7 rounds of the NFL draft. We will discuss every single pick that is made, every single one, the round 1s and even into the round 7 picks. So if you want to watch the NFL draft with us here at Chat Sports, do it there at youtube.com/chatsportstv. All right, round 4, and I finally got the receiver that I certainly needed. That was Devin Duvernay. He did make it to round 4 along with some other receivers. Had a breakout year after moving to the slot receiver position. Now he brings the speed and the, of course, slot receiver ability I think the Cowboys are looking for in this year's NFL draft. I think they want a little bit more of a dynamic, faster option in that role, and that definitely fits Duvernay pretty darn well. Now, he's not a great side-to-side athlete. I think that's why you could see him slide a little bit further down than maybe his testing numbers indicate that he should. But he had a great year at Texas. Another big potential issue here is that he wasn't used vertically at Texas. I am far more inclined, quite frankly, folks, to blame that on the Texas offensive scheme than I am to, maybe blame it on Duvernay himself or whatever. But I think in round 4, that would be a very strong pickup by the Dallas Cowboys if they could get Devin Duvernay in round 4 to slot in as a potential slot receiver option for you. You need more bodies there. I actually forgot to delete Lance Lenore because he got cut late last night. That's my bad, but he wasn't going to make this team anyway. You got 2 guys that you trust so far. Wilson, Brown, Smith, Ventel Bryant, John V. Johnson. You're not banking on them for anyone. So if you're the Cowboys, you have got to find a slot receiver to potentially start right away in the NFL draft. Some other players who were on the board, Devin Asiasi, who I think the Cowboys might take. I think that's a name to watch, especially if he gets to day 3. Lynn Bowden, another guy considered slot receiver. Reggie Robinson, I like him. Nick Harris is a potential center, but I got power concerns there. I'm not super in love with, and frankly, I need to find a slot receiver a lot more than need to find a center. And then Davion Taylor, another fun athlete at linebacker who's very much raw, but does have upside. So in what round should the Cowboys draft a wide receiver? Let me know what you guys think. I think round 4 is the latest that you can draft someone just based on how I expect the board to fall. Maybe you start considering it in round 3. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. All right, on now to round 5. We got 3 picks left, so we'll pick up the pace here a little bit more. L'Jarius Sneed, not someone we've really discussed at all on the show. He played safety this past year at Louisiana Tech. I think he's going to be a corner. He ran a 4.37 40, has 6-foot size, great tackler as well. The traits are there. And by the way, he's pretty good with the ball in his hands too. This is just a fun fact for you. 19 touchdowns on 64 offensive touches in high school. Kind of crazy, right? But he's a good athlete, with good size, has shown ball skills. He does need to work on the instincts and the reading and, just being comfortable in terms of going back to corner. But in round 5, this is the classic traits-based upside pick that you make. I don't know if he even gets to 164, but if he is, I think a team could be getting a possible sleeper on day 3. Some other players on the board, James Prochet, thought about him. Maybe you take him in round 4 if Duvernay and Bowden are off the board. Some defensive linemen, Khalil Davis, Broderick Washington. Another corner, Javaris Davis, Shaq Quarterman, who you guys picked in the fan-led mock draft. Harrison Hand was also there. I wanted to gamble on a defensive lineman. We'll see how that turns out with the other round 5 pick in just a second. But the Cowboys did take 2 corners here in my mock draft. Should they do that? Type 1 for yes or type 2 for no. I think that it's a good idea for the Cowboys to try and add 2 corners, specifically if they don't get one in round 1. If they do, okay, maybe you're fine. If not, maybe you try double dipping. I got a deal for you guys, I should say. Cowboys Draft hats are on sale. Chatsports.com/Cowboys Draft hat. You can get them now. They've got the more rounded brims. They've got the flat bills as well. They've got the adjustable and the fitted hats as on top of that. All types of the styles there. They all look like that black. I like the black hat, by the way. This year's draft hat is actually good. So get yours now before the NFL draft begins. You got less than 20, or about 24 hours, I should say, to get it in. So chatsports.com/Cowboys Draft hat. And don't worry, guys, I'll put that link in the comments and the description for you. The other round 5 pick, well, as it turned out, in the 15 picks between my options, all the guys I was looking at on the defensive line and corner all went off the board. So that was not great for me. But I went with Malcolm Roach in round 5, a Texas player. You might have heard of him because I know there are a lot of Big 12 fans here. He kind of played everywhere across his career at Texas. I am playing him full-time as an interior defensive lineman, probably as a 3 technique. I don't know if he could thrive as a 5, but I'd be willing to at least try it a little bit if you want to use him as some of those, hybrid defensive line fronts. He's a pretty good athlete. Mostly straight line, not a great bender, but that's okay. You're playing on the interior. I think you'll be okay. The production was never great for Malcolm Roach, but I kind of blame that more on the fact that, well, he never really got out on the field or it was playing all over the place, never had consistency at Texas in terms of sack production, just 8 career sacks. But he was a good tackle. I think in round 5, this is a nice potential backup defensive lineman that I think makes sense for the Cowboys with, I think, just enough positional flex that has it make sense for Dallas. Also on the board in round 5, Isaiah Coulter. I thought about going receiver for some speed there. Jacob Phillips was the best linebacker left, along with Carter Coughlin, kind of an edge linebacker hybrid. Dalton Keene, who I do like, was there at tight end. I did consider that one, but you guys picked Harrison Bryant in the fan-led mock draft. He didn't even make it to round 5 this time. All right, round 7 then, and I really wanted John Hightower in the draft sim. I think he makes sense, receiver out of Boise. 2 picks before me, he goes off the board. So I go to my fallback option, Calvin Throckmorton, the offensive lineman out of Oregon. He has had multiple starts at Oregon at left tackle, right guard, and center. He can play every spot on the offensive line. That versatility is important to me when I'm building out my offensive line depth. I can play him as a backup left guard, a backup center, a backup right guard. Now, I think he might be limited to only being a backup offensive lineman, but guess what? If I can have my 8th lineman and I get him in round 7 and he can play across the interior, that's got value for me. Now, he played a lot of tackle at Oregon. I think he's got to kick inside into the NFL, but he's at least a great depth piece. So to get that in round 7, even though he's not a great athlete, he's not the biggest, the strongest, I'll bet on the versatility there in round 7. Some other players who were on the board, Shea Patterson. I thought about Joe Reed again. We've talked about him. Zach Shackelford is not a good center. Kamal Martin could be a pick by the Cowboys as well. My good friend Jonah Tolles mocked him in one of his mock drafts for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm intrigued by that one. But I wanted to go with some interior offensive line depth. So grade this mock draft for me. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I like it. We know how crazy day 3 is. If the Cowboys could pull that off, I'd be pretty darn happy once the NFL draft is over. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.